So I've had a bit of a change of heart. I rethought what I want to do for the base. I was initially thinking maybe like a orange and red fire sort of feature on the base, but I've decided to go with more like a radioactive, slimy sort of green. So the main edges will be game color fluoro, green fluoro, so I'll probably give that at least probably 3 to 4 coats of that. And then in the middle, I'll do a little bit of darker greens as well to give it a bit of texture. But yeah, basically that's the way I'm going to go with it. So just going to do its first coat of the green today. I've given it 2 coats of just a plain white to be a background. So with fluoro colours, you usually need to put some white down first to make them reflect properly. I find that just any other colour doesn't, like, obviously you wouldn't even see it on black like what's here at the moment, so it's part of the reason why it really kind of, you know, pops or shows out so well is the contrast. But yeah, even on other non-white colours like a yellow or something soft or light brown, it just doesn't work. You need to have white, has been my experience. So hence why 2 coats of white first, and then to get the real fluoro-y kind of like popping sort of colour, yeah, even 2 coats of the green probably won't cut it, but we'll see how we go. I usually do my bases more in like a mud earth sort of colour, but just wanted to do something a bit different with this one, and that's why I thought, oh well, I'll go the black. But then with the black, it's the way your kind of mind works, is like, hey, some kind of like crack or something in that, it would pop really, really well because of the contrast with the black. Whereas if I did something like this on a, you know, mud earth background, I mean, you'd see it, but it just wouldn't have the same sort of impact. Still doing a little bit of detail finishing off for the model itself, just kind of doing small touch-ups. I've done some already off camera, not very exciting, just fixing stuff that hasn't been done, and plus a lot of it's small detail and cracks and stuff where it wouldn't really come across to video very well. But very soon I'm going to be doing some dry brushing, you know, obviously to tone down the areas and highlight the textures on like the wrapping especially, and his body I'll probably do. His body skin maybe maybe wash instead, see how I feel. You have more control with dry brushing as opposed to washes, but also you've got to be more careful as to where you dry brush. Long story short, it's very easy to dry brush especially like near the edges of things, onto stuff that you don't want to dry brush. Like for example, if you want to dry brush the skin but you don't want to dry brush the clothing, that's harder to do with dry brushing, whereas with washes you just kind of put the wash on and it will run to the edges, so it's a lot easier to control the area. So, point is mute if you're just going to dry brush a whole area and it doesn't matter for the control, but I personally kind of prefer dry brushing. I mean, I use both techniques, but I find that you do get more control with the dry brush, and also you can change the consistency a lot easier, like how thick a finished result that you want. I'll do that. Yep, there we are. But it is reasonably subtle differences at the end of the day. But yeah, I guess with washes you can also sometimes need to do a couple of different coats of washes. If you don't get the result you want the first time, you just do it layer upon layer, and that can be a good and bad thing, especially if you want to do multiple colors. Like sometimes you might want to, you know, give it a couple of different hues, like maybe a red hue for like underlying skin vessels and stuff like that, and maybe a darker brown or black hue to just kind of grunge it up and make it look a bit more dirty. So in that respect, washes can be good, whereas with dry brushing you're just always using the one color basically. So at the front I've done like a, you could say either a tree type of branching or a lightning strike kind of branching out from an area, but I thought, well, if you're going for like a toxic kind of look, there probably would be like a pool as to where that, you know, was like bubbling out of the ground or whatever. So here at the back I've kind of gone for more like a circular area and then like a big area where it's kind of pooled at the back. I think that makes the most sense. And his foot is right over, by design, on the front, like it's almost like he's stepping on it. He doesn't care. He's a troll. So you don't obviously have to do this to a model. It's totally whimsical in a sense in relation to the actual model itself, but yeah, always nice to put in special little features just to make it your own. There is also, not that I've gone all the way with them, but on this particular model there are some lines running down here, which is why I chose that area. So it's not just the paint color, there is a little bit of physical groove in the design of the base. So just decided to go with that. This base was not designed by the same people that designed the model though. It's basically a base that I already had for another project, and it was a perfectly good base, nothing wrong with the base, but it printed out in the wrong scale compared to the model that I had, so I had it left over. So I decided not to go with the base that was designed for this model, which is I think it looks good. Like the skulls thematically fit in very, very well. So I'm very happy with the end result, but it was a bit of a pain in the ass in the sense that the feet and the base didn't, you know, fit together perfectly, and they ended up having to pin it. And because I pinned it from the bottom up and was a little bit silly, I should have put in a, what do they call it, like a chamfer, I guess, around where the pin was going up. Anyway, I didn't, and that's why it wobbles a small amount. I have put a bit of spot putty on the bottom to kind of sort that out a little bit, but it is a little bit annoying that it wobbles. But far less than it did when I first pinned it. I've used the spot putty to make it, you know, at least it's stable enough that it's not going to fall over or anything, because you definitely don't want your models falling over if you bump the bookcase. And I guess it also depends on how big the model is. Like, this isn't, you know, large. It's, I mean, it's certainly large enough, but some of the big models like the Legolas and the Mandalorian that I have, if they were tippy, you know, they're such a big model, they could potentially fall over, and if it falls over from a bookshelf, it's gonna smash. No two ways about that. So, but yeah, I think he's certainly fine and stable enough. Anyway, I will leave that green to dry and then I'll give it another coat. Okay, so I'm back. It's been nearly a week since I've sat down at my paint desk. Nearly a week since it was all kind of set up to paint. So we had a bit of a cyclone event. Turned out not to be a big deal for us, thankfully, on Brisbane, but a lot of people on the Gold Coast got really slammed. So very grateful I don't live down there. Anyway, so we didn't lose power. We lost our internet for a little while, and we did get a bit of flooding in the garage, but you know, life goes on. So I'm just kind of refamiliarizing myself with where I was at with the troll model. The troll model's pretty much got its detail painting done. It just needs a few little touch-ups on the rope, which is what I'm going to do now. I'm very happy how this like slime green kind of base feature worked out. That's cool. Still have to do like the ivory sort of colors on the skulls. They're just white at this stage, but I will change that. But the bulk of the primary colors like the skin and the metal and the cloth and that is done. So once I've finished off all the detailing, then it will just be a matter of the dry brush detailing to make it all look a little bit more worn and dirty. And then, yeah, we're pretty much good to go on to another project. It has been a fun model to work on. I have quite enjoyed myself, so it's good to be able to get back to it and finish it off. Of course, the other reason why I haven't been doing any painting, even after it became clear that the wind wasn't going to be a big issue here. I mean, that was obviously the main thing we were worried about was, you know, if Brisbane really copped it, like how much wind damage were we going to get, was the roof going to be okay because it is an older sort of home, and all those sort of thoughts go through your head. But anyway, we did get a huge amount of rain, like just constant for about 3 days. And one of the things with painting is that it's not so great when it's very humid, just so much moisture in the air. And it was very humid for those, well, especially for the weekend. Like when I work during weekdays, and I tend to do the bulk of my painting either at night time or on the weekend. And yeah, wasn't going to be doing any painting on the weekend with that sort of level of humidity. But, you know, obviously we just think about those that got it a lot worse than we did. You know, we lost our internet, it's no big deal. Eventually came in, and that's a good thing because, like, my partner works from home sometimes and I work from home a lot of times, so definitely need your internet. But yeah, we didn't need to replace our fridge stuff, which is fantastic, because we were worried about, oh, should we go shopping? It's like, well, if we lose power and the fridge is out, we need to replace everything. But I'm sure the TV channels rated very well out of it, because pretty much everyone was just glued to the TV, watching what's the latest, what's happening. There's a lot of people, of course, that go out to have a look, but, you know, we got a word for them. They're called idiots. Especially on the Gold Coast, they were like standing on the edges of the beach, looking at all the erosion. It's like, yeah, well, if you fall down there, you're going to have an interesting time trying to get back up. And people have lost power for like days and days. I mean, my immediate friends that had lost power only lost power for about a day or so that I know of. But that they told me. But yeah, definitely some people lost power for like a week. I can't imagine without power for a week. It's supposed to be in between that chain. It's either going to be rope or it's going to be cloth. It's going to be one or the other. Alrighty, well that is the rope touch-ups. I'll let that dry and then I'll come back and do the cloth. I need to think about what colour I'm going to do the scales. So I need to get my head back in the game, as it were.